welcome to our webinar with Whitman College. My name is Liz Laporte, first of all, and I'm the founder of Porte Education Advising. And for the past couple of months, we've had several webinars that have been, fascinating to hear, from admission officers themselves, what the college is like. And today I'm happy to have Phoebe Blaisdell, who's the admission counselor for Northern California for Whitman College. So let's get started. Please feel free to ask questions. Phoebe's got some presentation slides. We're going to have a conversation, and we'd love to have questions, coming in from the audience. So let's start out. And Phoebe, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Phoebe. I use they, them pronouns. I am the admission officer at Whitman who works with our students in the East Bay, as well as San Francisco and Sacramento, as well as the states in New England. I've been at Whitman for just about a year, or just over a year now. And I also work with our transfer students. I'll be talking today a little bit about our location, academics, getting into what the community is like. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them in throughout. I will try to be checking the chat. But I also have a facts and figures sheet that I will be sharing. So please feel free to take a peek at that as well. It just has some quick statistics about our school. So Whitman is a small liberal arts college. We are located in southeastern Washington. We have about 1,500 students on campus with a 9-to-1 student faculty ratio, 51 majors and 35 minors available. I'll be getting into those options in just a second. But in terms of where we are located, one of the things that makes Whitman unique is the town we are in. Walla Walla, Washington is a small city located about 4.5 hours away from Seattle, 4 hours away from Portland, 45-minute plane ride though, and we do have an airport about 7 minutes away from campus. So it's never too much of a hassle to get here. But the important thing to know is that we are in a really interesting location. We are less than an hour away from the Blue Mountains in Oregon, the Columbia River, and then the Palouse, which is a natural landform just north of here. Think of the Microsoft rolling hills background. That's sort of what it looks like out here. And Walla Walla itself is very much a crossroads of many different industries and many different people. The location itself, about our median age in town is 34. It is a relatively young city. We have well-established communities in terms of agriculture, arts, and higher education. We have 3 institutions of higher ed in town, so there are a lot of student-aged people around. And then additionally, if you are someone who is interested in arts, tourism, tech, there are several startups in the area, and they are really interested in working with Whitman students. So in terms of what we have on offer, what Whitman really prioritizes are relationships between peers, between advisors, the people that you meet on campus, and then the relationships that you make in the Walla Walla community as well. So being able to really see what you enjoyed about an experience and really pinpoint what was rewarding for you. What can you take with you? What skills are applicable widely in several circumstances? In terms of academics, I had mentioned 51 majors and 35 minors. We have a lot of options for students in terms of what kind of academic plan they want to do. Double major, major, minor. We also have something called a combined major. The 3 things I like to emphasize with all academics at Whitman is that they are interdisciplinary, have a strong focus on experiential opportunities, and are collaborative. In terms of interdisciplinary, every class you are in at Whitman is geared towards looking at the subject in a new light or with a new dimension. A lot of this is enabled by things like our distribution requirements, but also by the students and faculty themselves. A lot of our faculty teach in several departments, and you will find students who are interested in the intersection between politics and environmental science. This is where our combined program comes into play. Instead of double majoring in environmental studies and politics, you would major in environmental studies politics, using curriculum from both majors, working with faculty from both departments, and studying how those 2 subjects play off of each other from the beginning of your studies all the way through graduation. That intersection would really be your focal point, and finding those different points of nexus, those things where you can really see how things connect and drawing really interesting lines between different subjects. That is where our students really thrive. In terms of experiential opportunities, regardless of what department you are in or what you are studying, there is a really strong understanding that your theories are only as good as they are applied. So how helpful are these ideas in the real world? What do they look like? How can you sort of spot these different situations? And what sort of creative problem solving methods are you going to be able to come up with by collaborating with the people around you? When I say that Whitman is collaborative, what I mean is that competition is not what is driving people's studies. It is more about how can my knowledge empower you and how can your knowledge empower me? How can we use these different experiences and the different perspectives we may have to come up with something that is a unique solution that solves problems for a lot of people. There's a really strong focus on working together, on making sure that you are supporting the peers around you and that you are feeling supported by faculty, staff, and students who are also at Whitman with you. Back to experiential learning very quickly. If you are anybody who is interested in field trips, labs, community projects, research, anything like that, those opportunities are in abundance. And a lot of them are found through those collaborative relationships, through asking your professor, like, I'm really interested in food justice. How might I find out more about it? Or what kind of internships are available if I wanted to do like clinical psychology research? Things like that you will be able to find by really nurturing those relationships. In terms of community itself, I like to mention a few things about Whitman. The first is that they focus on resources. The second is a concept that was new to me called the co-curricular. In terms of resources at Whitman, it is actually why I ended up coming out to Whitman. I am from Massachusetts. That's why I work with our states in New England. But I also am really interested. I was one of those students who asked for a lot of help and went for tutoring and asked for accommodations and all these different things, but didn't know that I really was able to do that until relatively late in my college career. Whitman advertises those things right off the bat. They are good at publicizing what resources are available for students, that you never feel like you're struggling or that you're just afloat. They make sure that students feel like there are people they can ask if they need help. So that is something I really like to emphasize. This is seen through a lot of accessibility efforts. One of the most popular on campus is the Bob Carson Outdoor Fund. We have a really fantastic outdoor program. I had mentioned all those different sort of like landforms that we are nearby, these different geographies. The Bob Carson Outdoor Fund makes sure that students get $150 a year to use the outdoor program, to go on the trips, rent the equipment, get the certifications, do the trainings, everything like that, so that you're really able to take full advantage of the very unique locale that we are in. But additionally, in terms of accessibility, you will just find that there are a lot of different examples of people on campus who are there looking to help people find new opportunities and making sure that there are no barriers in their paths for that type of thing. Some popular activities on campus, I mentioned the outdoor program. I also would mention athletics. We have a varsity club and intramural sports. I know intramural is one of the most fun activities to be involved with, but the other two are also very popular. While not everybody on our campus is an athlete, like a varsity athlete, most people choose to stay active. They choose to be involved with that team, or like really find those sort of communities. I know that our office itself had a dodgeball team this past year for the IM, and it was a lot of fun. So really finding ways to encourage that kind of lifestyle. Additionally, I would say if you are anybody interested in the performing or visual arts, Whitman does those extremely well. And it's a good example of something that is indicative of, I think, all departments on campus. You do not need to major or minor to be involved with different, with like music, theater, performing arts, or visual arts on campus. You do not have to be like fully in the department. If you are just interested in it, people are interested in sharing their knowledge with you. So people can like join a production, stage manage, join a vocal ensemble, everything like that. And it's something that's really encouraged in terms of the co-curricular. Back to this phrase, it was new to me when I came to Whitman, but I think it is very indicative of like what campus is like. There is an understanding that what you do outside of class is still going to inform who you are as a student. You're still going to be learning from all of those activities. So instead of things being seen as extracurricular or on top of what you are learning, it's seen as being alongside what you are learning. You do not leave the fact that you really love theater or that you are an athlete, anything like that, at the door when you enter a classroom. You will be bringing those experiences and those perspectives with you. And so it is really important, and students and faculty are very conscious to deliberately make time to fulfill those activities and make sure that you are able to really do the things that are rewarding for you and giving yourself a good balance between your academics and the things that inform who you are beyond the classroom. So that is sort of an overview of Whitman, some of the main points that I wanted to cover. If you are interested in anything from like study abroad to learning more about music, I'm happy to answer specific questions. Also, I know people have different questions about the area itself. So please let me know, and I'd be happy to dive into any of that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about the area. I'm sorry I haven't been able to get up to Whitman, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about, it sounds like you're in this beautiful, like natural setting, yet you're very accessible to, cities and opportunities for internships and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also sorry you haven't been able to join, but Lord knows this is not the time to be traveling. I completely understand.
Yeah.
So Walla Walla is actually a pretty unique area. Um, I can say a few things about it. So where we are is very climate wise different from the western side of the state. I think people generally think of like the Pacific Northwest as being pretty rainy, pretty temperate. We have 260 days of sunshine a year, all four seasons, as is visible behind me now. This is our admission office. And so it definitely makes for a more dynamic environment. But also just in terms of like where we are location wise, Walla Walla is the county seat. So if anything is coming through southeastern Washington or this area, it will be coming through our town. We are like I said, driving wise, about 4.5 hours away from Seattle, 4 from Portland, 3 from Spokane. So we are like very close to Oregon. But in terms of like being in the town, there are a lot of resources that Whitman students use to get involved with community service. About 70% of our students are involved with at least one community service opportunity. This might be what you're more used to in terms of community service. So like things like the buddy program, or like we have an adopt a grandparent club, things like that for our senior center. But there are also some specific opportunities. The first that I like to mention is the Whitman internship grant. This is not specific to Walla Walla. It is a grant that is designed to fund unpaid internships. It goes back to what I was mentioning with accessibility, but I have known a lot of students who've used the smallest award that the grant offers, $1,500 a semester, to do internships here in town. The first I know a student who's actually used it twice. The first time she was working with the city of Walla Walla. The second time she found a chicken farm to work at in town and was working on like sort of making sure that all of their policy and licensing was in place. So she was able to help like a small farmer in town as well. And so it is there to sort of help you explore different careers. And Walla Walla is extremely receptive. We have some really incredible community partners who are able to help students get transferable skills so that they have the work experience. But also if they are interested in like a specific job or project, being able to help like facilitate that for them. I know our community fellows have been involved with Planned Parenthood, Walla Walla County Corrections. We also had somebody work with Reach Out Walla Walla, which is a mental health group in town. So there are a lot of opportunities there for students to pick and choose the experiences that they have in town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great, great. So it sounds like the academic focus is sort of like you're talking about co-curricular. Are students encouraged to choose a major after a certain, sort of general ed requirements, or how does that, what's the major kind of
Yeah.
selection like?
Great question. So students declare their major at the end of their sophomore year.
No.
They can declare as soon as they arrive, but most people generally use those first 2 years to explore. We have distribution requirements at the beginning of your experience and senior comprehensive exams at the end. In terms of distribution requirements, these are categories rather than classes. It's not like a core curriculum, more I can list through them and talk more about how we use them. There's a humanities, social science, quantitative analysis, science, cultural pluralism, fine arts, and a first year seminar. And they are not meant to like force someone into taking another year of math if they don't want to or anything like that. They're more there to let people explore the things that they are interested in from a new perspective. My absolute favorite example of a distribution requirement and how they are meant to function is symbolic logic, which is a philosophy course. It is meant to show people how to build arguments. And it ends up being one of the most popular humanities electives for anybody interested in computer science. Anybody who needs to do programming or coding, who really needs to make sure that their logic is foolproof, that everything follows a very certain structure, really benefits from symbolic logic. And along the way, you learn a little bit more about the history of philosophy and how this sort of came up in the field. And that is very much what those courses are supposed to do, to expose you to a new way of thinking about the thing that you are interested in. And then the other thing I mentioned, senior comprehensive exams, they come at the end of your senior year. They vary by department. I know for some, like psychology, it looks more similar to like a thesis and a defense. There's always like a practical and then a theoretical portion, but also like in music, they are encouraged to do recitals. So it will vary depending on what your sort of major looks like.
Great. I do have some students who are interested in majoring in music. If can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Music at Whitman is a really fascinating area. It has so many people involved. So I had mentioned performing arts earlier as something where you don't have to major or minor to get involved. And music is one of those places where you'll find a lot of people who are majoring or minoring, but will probably be double majoring or majoring in something else and minoring in music. People who are just interested in doing it because they love those activities, they love the community. There's also a pretty strong gigging scene here in Walla Walla. There are some really popular opportunities for people to be able to find gigs around town. So in that sense, even people who are not interested in sort of studying music more formally, taking classes, anything like that, they still get to perform, they still get to make music with other people. And in terms of what you are looking for, if you are hoping to study it academically, you will have quite a few options. There's generally a requirement to be a part of an ensemble. We have a couple jazz ensembles, orchestra, bands, different vocal ensembles, things like that. But additionally, you will be able to receive private lessons. And then there's a really strong focus, again, on like how music can be seen through a social science type lens. So it's really about applying the theories that you are learning as well. Yeah, our Hall of Music is beautiful. I use the practice rooms all the time. It is a great space to be in.
Oh, nice. So a lot of kids do sports here. I know COVID, it's a little on hold, but what's the sports scene like up there in terms of NCAA or club sports?
Yeah, absolutely. So Whitman is Div 3. We have quite a few varsity sports as well as several club sports. I know if you are interested in anything from like alpine skiing to ultimate to climbing, we have a really fantastic climbing center on campus as well. There are a lot of different teams for people to be a part of. I know some of the more recent developments, we just added distance track if you are interested in that. So now we have cross country as well as track. But truly, if you are interested in being recruited, that's a process that starts pretty early. I would recommend getting in touch with our athletics page. They have a recruit me process where you are able to like submit your information, mention that you might want to play this sport at the varsity level in college, and they can reach out to you. Beyond that, if you are interested in getting involved with clubs or intramurals, there is no like tryout process or anything like that. Is very much a matter of like, if it's something you would like to give give it a shot, you are welcome to do so. There's a lot of sort of dynamism in terms of like where people go with their activities on campus.
Mhm. So it's a fairly compact campus. I mean, there are what, 1,500 kids or so, and that's a wonderful size. I'm sure the community feels very tight knit, and kids get to know each other fairly well. What are the residence halls like, and how does that play into the social scene there?
Yeah, absolutely. So with housing, we offer housing guaranteed all 4 years. If you would like to live on campus all 4 years, you are more than welcome to. We have 4 first-year residence halls, and in your residence halls, you will be placed in different sections. The sections are just like on a floor, it might be split in half or things like that, but a smaller group of people that you can get to know well. In terms of the people in the residence halls, there will be a resident director who is a staff member, as well as RAs who are in charge of these sections, resident assistants, and then SAs, student advisors.
Oh.
If RAs are there to sort of assist with the transition from living at home to living at college, SAs are there to help with the transition from learning at high school to learning in college. They will have things like organizational study skills sessions. They will like have different like meetings about like habits, or just like study groups if you are just looking for someone to sort of spend time with while doing your work. SAs are there to help with that and make sure that you feel supported, that you know what resources are available if you're looking for help, everything like that. So those are the people in your halls. We also have sophomore specific hall, Stanton Hall, which was completed this past year, and then mixed upperclassmen housing. Most of our seniors choose to live off campus. Rent in Walla Walla is very affordable, especially compared to the Bay Area. And then additionally, I know that about like a third to a half of our juniors will choose to live off campus as well.
Mhm. Wow. So, the small, the benefits of having a small, student population. It sounds like there's so many opportunities, both sports and music, and getting help in your classes if you need it. It sounds like internships are a big piece of Whitman, and I would love to hear a little bit more about opportunities for students both during school and then maybe after they graduate.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very worthwhile question right now, and one that I was very worried about in college. What I can share is that Whitman has a lot of opportunities for people to explore different careers while they are on campus. There is no need to like commit yourself to one track or really figure out like exactly what you want to do, but the majority of our students will take part in at least one internship or at least one research project. I know it is very common to sort of assist with faculty research in like your first or sophomore years, and then you get into your junior and senior year and you really have been having your own experiences. Maybe you have completed an internship, or maybe you have tried a fellowship and you are interested in sort of pursuing your independent research at that level as well. In terms of what makes this available to students, I mentioned the Whitman internship grant. It ranges from $1,500 up to $5,000 if you do an international internship. The most common award is around $3,000, which is for a domestic internship over the summer. And that is just, again, to let people explore. There's a database of what people have like used that money for, and it ranges from like working in their hometown over the summer to going abroad with an international company. There are a lot of different options there. We also have something I like to mention are the pre-professional tracks. So if you are interested in being pre-health or pre-law, another popular one is education. If you have a specific industry you are hoping to enter, we have pre-professional tracks where you get specialized advising. There are also some guaranteed placements. I know they can be, there is an application like for them. But we have guaranteed placements at the Mayo Clinic as well as Fred Hutchinson, which is up in Seattle for our pre-health students. But if you are someone who is interested in that, you get help with standardized tests, applications, getting support in terms of like having people read them over, making sure that you have all of the courses necessary to be a competitive applicant, as well as just advising in general. What are you interested in within that field? What would make you a very attractive applicant to these different institutions? 80% of our students get into one of their top 3 graduate programs. So it is something that Whitman is very good at in terms of advising and making sure that they understand where a student is and where they want to be and what sort of skills they want to transfer into their professional career. Post-grad, you still have a lot of support from our SEC, our Student Engagement Center handles all of the career sort of advising and help. And they also are very involved with our alumni. There are alumni sort of centric events like Witties Helping Witties, where you get to network and understand like where people have gone with their careers. But beyond that, if you're ever considering a career change or something has changed and like you are interested in trying something new, you will have support in those endeavors.
So I'm curious about the leadership of Whitman. I suppose there's a president. I haven't done the research about the top leadership, but I know the presidents of universities and small colleges in particular are key members. The leadership team. What's your leadership team like at the school?
Yeah, so we have a president, Kathy Murray. Kathy Murray, I think, came to Whitman from the Midwest. She worked at McAllister before, but Kathy has a cabinet of people who are very present on campus, especially during COVID. We have had forums at least once a month, generally once or twice a month, for students, faculty, and staff individually. These different populations have been differently affected by things that are happening on campus. And they're the people who are like running these firms, making themselves available. I have personally been very impressed with our president. Before COVID sort of shut everything down and like it became harder to see anybody, it was very common to see Kathy out and about. She often held different events throughout the year. She is seen by students and sees students. She works pretty closely with not only her cabinet, but also ASWAC, which is our student government, the Associated Students of Whitman College. And she knows students well enough that she is able to sort of point out like what they do on campus. And is there for big events. We have a Power and Privilege Symposium every February where we sort of address power and privilege and how it is made visible on campus, what it looks like at Whitman. And having higher ranking administrators there is important. And she is not only listening, but she's also very active in participating. So I think that's a little bit about like our leadership right now and sort of the format of it. Her cabinet is consisting of like the dean of students, the provost, the vice president for enrollment, and then different people in terms of different offices around campus. But all of them are familiar faces. All of them are very highly communicative.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds just like a very inclusive and warm campus, and you must really enjoy working there. I'm wondering a little bit about the enrollment process, the admission process. Are you the one who actually reads, and assesses the applications from this area? Is it a committee? Take us through those steps a little bit.
Absolutely. So I'll start like very broadly. Whitman does accept the common application. We have 3 rounds, but 2 deadlines. Early decision 1, November 15th. Early decision 2 and regular decision are both due January 15th. I will read all applications that are coming from this area. After that, we have a 2-reader system, so there will always be at least 2 sets of eyes on your application. The second reader is randomly assigned, and from there, we do have a committee process when there are disagreements. In terms of what we are looking for in the reading process, I will say that there are 10 of us reading applications. We are all different. We come from different educational backgrounds and different regions as well. I think there's only one of us in the office who is from Washington itself. But what we are there to do is really make sure that we balance each other out, and we will be looking for similar categories, although we will be reading differently. We might choose to read in a different order, but when we think about academics, we are looking for rigor, how challenging a student's courses have been, as well as success in meeting the challenges that you've set for yourself. We are not going to be looking for, perfect 4.0 straight A GPAs the entire time. While it's always nice to see, we are more going to be looking for students who are really willing to challenge themselves, put themselves in new situations, and do a reasonably good job of sort of assessing their own boundaries and skills. In terms of things like the activities list and the personal essay, things that you say about yourself, I think a good thing to keep in mind in terms of what we are looking for there is what a person values. What are they spending their time on? What are they giving their time and energy to? If it's family, that's worth knowing. If it's art, that's worth knowing. Even if it's something that's not necessarily through a club or a sport, if it is something that you spend a significant amount of time on that matters to you, communicating that value to us is always going to be helpful. The two things sort of to mention about our process that are a little bit, that can be vary from school to school. We are test optional. We are interview optional. We have been test optional since 2016. If you like your scores, you had a chance to take the tests and you like your scores, please feel free to submit them. We will consider them. If you are feeling like 4 hours on a Saturday, maybe not your best work, or for whatever reason you didn't get a chance to take the test, no pressure. It will not affect your application negatively in any way. We will not think twice about it. We are interview optional. The majority of interviews at Whitman are undertaken by our senior interns. I think of them as being very mutually beneficial. You get to talk with a current student, hear about what their 4 years have been like, and then we get to hear more about why a student is considering Whitman, where they think their fit lies, and what they're looking for from an institution more broadly. Yep. So those are sort of the main things to know about our application process.
Great. So in my work with students, we've been, due to COVID and the lack of opportunities to visit campuses and take campus tours, we've been reaching out to admission officers and admission counselors like you for short, Zoom meetings. Is that something that that you suggest for folks who are interested in Whitman?
I highly recommend that. Yeah. Honestly, having these conversations is really where I think decisions are made. You just get a better sense of what the institution is like. If I have one piece of advice, especially right now during this particular season, it's reach out to as many students as you can. Talk to as many different people around campus as you are able to. They'll just give you a good sense of what is common, what are the common themes, and then you'll also hear more about their particular experiences, and that can never hurt.
Yeah, great. So it sounds really great. Whitman sounds just ideal in so many ways. Is there anything else you'd like to add for us to know about or to look into as we go through the process? And I know families are always looking for information, and this sounds like a really great option for lots of families that I know.
Yeah. I would say I have two resources that I would point to. The first, we did have a fall virtual open house type thing, and there were a lot of events that were filmed, and one of those is actually including committee reviews. We did mock application reviews where we talked through different applications of fictional characters like Zuko from The Last Airbender, some of the Star Wars people, things like that, but just to give people a sense of what our committee process looks like, what those discussions can be. So I would recommend checking those out on our website. The other thing that I really like to mention, if you are involved with theater, music, fine arts, or debate, outside of need-based and merit-based scholarships, we do offer talent-based awards. They range from a few $1,000s up to full tuition. And if you are anybody who is involved with those activities and you really enjoy them, I would recommend looking into those resources as well. It can be a great scholarship to have.
Yeah, if you could repeat that, that'd be helpful, because I have several students who may be in that category.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the types of financial aid we offer need-based as well as merit-based scholarships. But additionally, we offer talent-based scholarships. They range from a few $1,000s up to meeting full demonstrated need. And what's important to know about those is that there is an additional supplement required. The other two only require your FAFSA and your CSS profile. But for the talent-based scholarships, which are just a way to get involved with those communities on campus, they require a portfolio or an audition, something that showcases your skills and experiences in those areas. And I know that it involves also working closely with our faculty and getting a sense of those departments before coming to campus as well.
Okay. Well, hey, Phoebe, that was really great. And I really appreciate your taking the time. I know this is a busy season for you, but thank you for sharing your campus and all the wonderful things that go into making up at Whitman. To the audience, thank you so much for being here and for learning a little bit about this special school up north. As you know, we work with students on their applications, on their college lists, on their essays. And yes, it is the busy season right now, but if you're looking for some help, feel free to reach out. So thanks again, Phoebe, and thank you for all those who attended the webinar. And we'll be having another one soon, and look for my newsletter, and you'll see some information about that. So goodbye, everybody. And again, Phoebe, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Awesome.